Okay. Meet everybody. It looks kind of funny and awesome at the same time. That all the little, okay, so there's the big view for me speaking at the moment. Then there's the little pictures going across the top, and
It's
all
like
of
a funhouse
the
mirror.
background.
Yes, yes, it does. And it's like we're
just
it's
marching
a
books.
lineup.
Exactly.
It looks like a book, like one of those stacks. So you go to Barnes and Noble and there's like a stack of bestsellers, so it's like, there we go. So we line up. And the reason for this is just, this is a graphic I used on the store, but just to show people that we have these editions, that we have the ebooks, we have the paperbacks, we have the hardcover, and there's going to be an audiobook. I'm just signing a contract for that. So that's going to take several months, unfortunately, because they got to work. They have to record the book, they have to do all these things, prepare it, and so on and so forth. So that takes, I'm guessing, summer. That's probably when we can have it. But so here it is. Here we are. And
okay, I'll start us out with a good question.
Go for it.
Amrevet Days 1 contains adult level scenes as well as advancing the storyline. Would you tell us why you decided to write this type of book? It's not young adult.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. This is an excellent question. And let me first of all explain two things. There are two good reasons, two, not one, but two reasons why I decided to write this one. First of all, a lot of people over the years have been asking for this. This is not something you notice because maybe you just didn't see their comments, but I read people's comments and they tell me, they say, I wish I had seen this. Oh, we want more things between Gwen and Nathan. Ooh, hee, ha, ha, ha. People are asking for this type of level. And part of the reason for that is because the publishing industry has evolved to expect more spice and more intense kinds of spice. Now, before we get into my second reason, let's just first of all define spice, okay? Because back in the later or earlier decades, in the maybe late 90s, 80s, 90s, and so on, you had a definition of spice, which were, people on the scene, people are having sex, and it's open door, or open door means that the reader can see it happening. It's not like where they kiss and then they close the door behind them and it's all in, very clean, nothing on screen. No, this is open door. You're right there in the bedroom with them. So this was an expectation of high levels of spice when people were actually having sex and you were describing body parts and you were talking about how they were thrusting and so on and so forth. People were actually doing the act in the book, and this was considered really super spicy. And you may get people like I'm trying to think who is a typical bestseller at that time. Maybe is it Jacqueline? What is her name?
Kennedy?
No. She was the author. Anyway, I'm blanking out. But there are two or three very spicy contemporary type of writers back in the 80s and 90s who are doing this level, and
Jacqueline Suzanne, maybe?
maybe yes. I think yes. Thank you. Valley of the
Jacqueline
Dolls. I think,
Collins?
yeah, and
Jacqueline Collins.
Collins,
Oh,
the
yeah.
sisters, right? Yeah, there's Jackie and the others and whatever. So yes, thank you. So those women were writing really, contemporary romance, but with really open door. People were going at it and so on. And this was considered really raunchy, really like pushing the envelope type of level of intimacy. But with the times, this became kind of mid-level. So anything where you having sex on the page, on screen with an open door for the reader to observe everything with body parts mentioned and even like, really raunchy stuff. And when you start getting into like different positions and different, pairings, you have multiple partners. All this stuff started to evolve around the 2000s and 2010s, and the last decade is really went beyond the whatever the envelope was for you back in the 80s and 90s, whatever you called five five spice level, five chili pepper level, and those were not even terms. Whatever that was, now is like 3. Okay. So what I write is, I cannot myself write anything that's contemporary. 5 chili pepper level includes sexual assault, really, really kink, stuff that is just extreme, violence, a lot of abusive, violent. The male characters are usually like they called morally gray. That's a popular term right now to refer to like dark shadow daddies, as you call them. The characters on Book Talk, and again, I blame Book Talk for enhancing this. A lot of this happened because indie authors were the ones who were writing this type of thing more than traditional. But because of Book Talk, which all these people were wanting to read these really dark male characters, really dark, horrible, stalkerish, So this thing has evolved to the point where traditional publishing decided they wanted in on this fun, and they started to have their own level of this type of book. So they're picking up this type of author, and it's referred to as dark romance, and that's 5 chili peppers. Okay, that's really the true contemporary 5 chili pepper level. When you have titles like Haunting Adeline or Adeline, that's an example of really that kind of pushing the envelope. Really, they use like weapons and things, and they draw blood, and it's, really things if you're not comfortable with that, don't even go there. So now in my case, I am comfortably at 3 chili pepper level, and I don't plan to go anywhere past that with my characters. What I'm talking by that is 1 chili pepper will be like mild kissing, nothing happening, basically almost clean romance. So 1 chili pepper is like 1 step over clean, where clean meaning nothing, no intimacy at all. No touching, no kissing, nothing. 1 chili pepper would be some kissing. 2 chili peppers is when they get a little bit touchy-feely, like going to first base or, whatever. And then 3 is when you start getting, again, these are just common definitions right now. 3 is when you start having open door, people are naming body parts, and so on and so forth. 4 and 3, mine, I would say 3.5 times 4, it's somewhere like 3.5 is the level of Amrevet days. 4 is like when they start getting more kinky, when you start having reverse harem or white shoes, which is a new genre. It's a recent new genre in romance. And if you don't know what that means, I believe a lot of it was perpetuated from what's her name? Laurel Hamilton wrote Anita Blake, sorry. Anita Blake was a woman who was a supernatural, like she had powers, and she was like a necromancer, and she had a harem of males. Basically, all these male characters showed up, and they were all doing it together in one big bed. So this is like reverse harem. It's an example where instead of one prince having a multiple women in his harem, you have one woman having multiple men in her harem. So that term was reverse harem, which now it's not approved. Now they call it why choose instead of, so meaning why choose one partner when you can have an endless number of partners. And that's a part of a genre that usually goes into 4 chili peppers or higher. So you have why choose. And then you have things like, doing monster sex. Okay, you may have heard of this stuff. After a while you start laughing. Some of this came from the Far East, where you had like tentacle sex. You may have heard of this. This is like, we're starting to get into super kink stuff, and this is like normal. Monster sex is when the male character is some kind of a monster, and I'm not saying that they turn into a monster and then they turn back to a guy. No, they're literally doing it with the monster shape. So if you had Beauty and the Beast, okay, you would be doing it with the beast. He never turns to the prince. So they have people having intimacy with spiders, with like horned demons, with tentacled whatever creatures. So this is like, again, you're going way off the normal human physical interactions, and that would be like 4+ to 5. And that's where you get the chili pepper scale. And again, 5 is dark romance with abuse and violence and weird monster, like, oh, then there's this thing called Omega Verse, which to those of you who are not familiar with, oh my Lord, it started in fan fiction where, because some people write a lot of fan fiction about other people's characters. Well, everybody's always ends up having sex. Everybody wants to put together characters randomly. And they started to write these things with alphas, like some men are alphas, others are like betas, and there's the omega, which gets screwed by everything. And this became another genre. So the Omega verse. And usually they base their physical interactions, physical intimacy on like animals, like dogs. And let's just say that the male organ is like, it has the features of what a dog's organ has. And they have this something called knotting. And you may have heard like knotting, K-N-O-T. So I'm giving you a whole lot of stuff that to many people unfamiliar with the genre would be like, your head will explode. So you have situations where nodding involves a woman and, you know, the partner, they're together in this, you know, and the organ is like not human really. So anyway, this is just the kind of stuff that's popular out there that's considered like that's the height of the envelope. So when you have my characters, I said I want to give them some spice, but they're going to be having consensual vanilla sex, meaning vanilla, there's nothing unusual, nothing non-standard. This is the stuff that people do when they're married. This is just regular married, but it's open door. And I do get explicit and I talk about body parts and how they feel and movements and so on and so forth. So the idea was that a lot of readers, a bunch of readers over these years, over this past decade, were hinting that they would like to see that because they're off reading all this dark romance and other stuff. And they're just like, when they come back to tag, it's like, where's the sexy stuff? So I said, okay, we need to accommodate some of this because I can see their perspective. I can see them wanting to read the sexy stuff between our characters, but that doesn't fit the story, the type of, what is it like the vibe. We have a young adult general audience vibe for the Atlantis Grail, and then suddenly you want this type of open, blatant intimacy. Well, for that I said I'm going to make this a completely separate series because Amrevet days, which means the honeymoon period. If you've read the Atlantis Grail, you know what this is. This is the within like 8 months after the wedding, a couple in Atlantis is supposed to go off and hide and just have adventures together and be intimate all this time. So it's an extended honeymoon. But I said, we're going to write this. We're not going to call it the Atlantis Grail series because I don't want kids under 18 to be reading this or going anywhere near these books. But my readership wants some of these books. So that's why when you look at vendors like Amazon, you're not going to see the connection between these books. So once you're over 18, go ahead and read these. Be happy, enjoy it. Technically speaking, Amrevet Days fits after the last chapter of Survive, but before the epilogue, which happens several years later, like 5 years later. So you're actually getting an insert. So this is like the Atlantis Grail book 4.5. And that's why I decided to do this because you want to know what happened to them right after the war ended. They got pregnant. They're happy. What's happening? But you want to see all the spice. So we're separating it out. And here's the second reason why I wrote this. I want to be able to have readers come in who normally don't read YA. Okay, I want a share of that market because right now there are a lot of people say, oh, I just want spice. I'm not even going to look at a YA book. Well, I'm telling them, you know what? If you want to start with the Atlantis Grail, you get the nice slow burn buildup because there's a lot of sexy tension going on, right? It's all the way through, starting from qualifying, and it only is resolved really in the end of basically the end of compete, because the tension is like There's the when they reveal their feelings to each other finally, and then you get you get a little bit more tension, but it's more it's kind of like, yes, we know they're loving each other, they're gonna get together. But some people don't want to read a book just like that. A lot of the readership out there don't even want to try it. And I said, I want you to try my books. You're missing out on this. So this is my second reason. I want a share of that market. And for that, I need to offer an alternative. And this is the alternative. This is for the readers who want more, who want the general audience stuff. Plus, they want to go, oh, let's open the bedroom and see what's happening in there. So I am giving up to you. To all the readers who asked for it, quite a few. I've had quite a few readers asking for this. And I am doing this, the best way to isolate this, I originally said I'm going to just serialize it. And I was putting this on my Patreon and my Ream under a paywall, meaning that you have to you're not going to see it anywhere unless you pay for it separately, and kids are not allowed, But now a great way to isolate this was with the levels, because the people who subscribed at the $6 level, which is you get all the standard books, plus you get the spice level. So you can separate out the readership. So it's kind of very clean. Like if you want to keep it clean, you go on my Patreon and just subscribe at the $3 level or my Ream, $3 level. So you never see this stuff, and it separates the readership. But on the other hand, if you're in the over 18 category and you're into spice, which a lot of readers are, then you have this alternative for yourself. So 2 good reasons. I want to have readers get what they're asking for, and I want to have a little bit of that market share. So this is why I decided to do this. And this is how we got here. So I hope that explains it, because people are asking, why did you do it? Why did you pollute Gwen and Asen? It's like, no, you can ignore this. It's absolutely okay to ignore this series if you don't like spice, if you are uncomfortable with spice, if you're too young for the spice, if you're under 18, go away. Like we're saying, no, you cannot look at this stuff. So this is why I want to say that it's optional. There are nuggets of stuff that happens in these books that are really fun, and they do advance the story, but I plan to kind of cover some of it, not exactly as it is here, because you can't repeat that, but some of it will be mentioned in the standard, in the 5th book, which is the book of everything. So you will get some of this information there, and you're not going to miss all that much. You will miss some, but not that much. And
so you'll cover the really important parts.
The really important part, like the political differences, like the advancement in the story and the plot line involving politics and relationships, like so-and-so meeting so-and-so, or popping, somebody popping up. I'm assuming that all of you who are here have read this. If there's anybody who has not read this, go Ghana. But you find out certain things. For example, you find out what happened to the to Anne Finbar, which is, remember, Gwen's friend back on Earth in the beginning of Qualify. So you find out a little bit about Anne Finbar. You find out about Zoe Blatt, Zoe from Qualification, her original Team Lark on Earth when they were flying through the Huntington Guard, all the LA. So you will meet Zoe here. And as the books in the 2nd volume, you will see other things. There are other kind of like continuations. Plus, you get interesting nuggets of information about the prequel series. And I can't even mention this yet because I don't want to make you connected yet. Until you've read Eos, I don't want you to like even think in that direction. But I'm already giving you nuggets here about what's happening in Eos.
I will say that Farrakhan Heru, I got a deeper appreciation for the man. I just love that old man.
Yeah, the rival, like he's the king. He's the Farrakhan is like the king or the emperor level as Atlantis, but it's a new Deshret. So he's the ruler, and you've met him briefly in Survive, and you've seen he's a kind of a grouchy old man, but it's mostly because he was mad at Romutat, which he had good reason to be.
He's still mad at him.
Yeah, he's still mad at him even after he's gone, but he likes Asen. So it's like, you know, there's a
And
difference.
he absolutely loves Gwen.
Yes, he loves the whole couple. He thinks they're good, a good, you know, bunch of young, you know, they're gonna do good for the world, and you know, in every sense, he has good hopes for them. So
Okay, Vera, another question I have that you haven't quite touched on yet.
yeah,
What was more important for you? Expanding the storyline or the sexy scenes?
okay. In this case, I'm going to say the sexy scenes because this was written specifically for people asking for sexy scenes. That's why you have a lot of sexy scenes, okay? Now, we may slow down a little bit with the sexy scenes because they're already built into the story, so you know, but you will still get sexy scenes, but a little bit more story in volume 2 and 3 and so on. So this story will take over a little bit more, but be expecting sexy scenes anytime because that's what it's a honeymoon. They're literally, we're watching them do it because they're freaking on their honeymoon, right? So then
And
you will,
complaining about the maids changing the sheets.
yes, yes, of course. The sticky sheets have to be changed every night and it gets bad. But the other thing is you've noticed we have a new critter in the mix. We have another cat. So we have a cat who is going to be kind of a companion to Kemji. And by now, you know, Kemji is just, you know, Manala's like little baby, sweet little creature, you know, her most important thing in the world for her. You know, she loves Kemji so much. So now we have another cat in the works, and this one is going to be, you know, it's a different kitty. It's a feral. It's from the across the opposite side of the world. You know, it's a different, slightly different breed, but you know, so we have another kitty. And we have discovered what happened to the one of the great wonders of the ancient world. You already know what happened to the Hanging Gardens. That was explained in Win. You've met the fact that you've discovered that the Hanging Gardens were brought from Earth and they're literally in Poseidon in the palace. Well, you just learned what happened to the great lighthouse, the Pharos, the lighthouse of Alexandria. It's also been brought to Atlantis. And it's a different setup. It's in a different part of the world, in a different countries, and it's there. And you know, we had good times in the lighthouse, and you've learned that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I would not be surprised if there was a Sphinx somewhere on the planet.
Well, you will, like I said, I'm not giving it away because the fun is in the journey. This is a travelogue above all else. Yes, there's sexy times. And there's not really any cliffhangers because it's not like a cliff of adventure. This is just like periodic things that happen in their travels. And they see this and they see that and they go, wow, how cool. You know, so there's a little
A question that we have here,
go for
Vera.
it.
How pregnant will Gwen be by the time they finish their Amrevet days?
She will be pretty pregnant, and we're not gonna we may have her start to go into labor. So they're not gonna be doing it at that point, but we may have her give birth to the first baby, which, as we know, is the princess. It's the Margot. So we may have that may be the end of it. So
But okay,
Yeah.
but if they don't have the baby at home, then does that mean the baby's like a citizen of another country?
well, no, what I'm saying is they could come back. Like the way I'm going to write this, I haven't decided where they're going to have the baby yet, but it will be all legitimate. So don't worry. The princess will be a legitimate princess of Imperial Atlantis. That's no doubt about it. Nothing.
They can
you
be
know,
home
nothing-
in 15 minutes with
Right.
their with the space with the craft they're on.
Oh, good point.
You know, they can
Right, because remember, this is a story that's very leisurely.
Yeah.
There's a genre that's very popular together with dark fantasy. I think a reaction to, dark romance. A lot of people who are like so much into that really bloody, horrible assault, violence, whatever. Then there's the people who want cozy stuff. They're sick of the bloody. They're sick of the violence. So we're that. We are the cozy side of romance. Cozy meaning no low stakes and high spice. It's pleasant, it's nice, nothing terrible is going to happen to them. You know, the worst will be is that like indigestion or you know, that's like the worst that can happen. So they're just going around beautiful places, enjoying themselves, meeting good people, and sometimes they're going to be meeting characters that we already know. Plus, you may have had, remember the museum wars? You had a little bit of that. You've gotten some of the museum wars still going because they're never ending. The museums on Earth and Atlantis and other Atlantean countries are fighting each other. They want their artifacts back. They want their so it's like a running joke because you have endless artifacts taken, but literally basically appropriated. It's like cultural appropriation to the max, taken to the worst level possible. So, and they're all trying to get them. See, these are the fun nuggets that you get because that's cozy. You getting funny things, pleasant things, sexy things. That's all this book is about. A sense of wonder, beautiful travelogue, good food. They're enjoying themselves. Nobody's gonna die. Nothing horrible is gonna happen to anyone. And you don't want that because this is a series to relax you. You're reading and you're knowing that all that's gonna happen is fun, pleasant, and new characters may pop up, but even if they pop up here, they will show up later in the book of everything. So
If they're important.
yeah, if they're important. If they're minor, then you don't need to see them. Like the lady in the gift shop, in the lighthouse gift shop, you don't need to see her pop up anywhere again. We've had
Right.
who were trying to sell them all the toys, like the adult toys, and So yeah, that's just a minor character. She was funny, and
She was funny.
Yeah.
Will we see more changes in point of view from Gwen to Aeson and back in future books?
Excellent question. Yes, we are. And I want to leave it as a surprise because you notice there was only one Aeson chapter in here. It just popped out of nowhere and you're like, oh, cool, we have Aeson now. Okay, so you will have him pop up like that as a chapter here and there, and it will be random. You will never know what you're going to get, like where his point of view takes over. So, but it will be relevant. So, he adds his perspective, gives you that side of their relationship. So you do want to see his perspective. So, what was the question there?
Oh, somebody was talking about there would be more discussion about artifacts because she thought it was pretty much talked about in Survive. We can tell pretty much that Earth did not get all their things back.
Right, and that's the reason they're talking about the artifacts now, is because in the end of Survive, you can see that the museum wars have just started, and they're going hot and strong, and they're just at each other, and they're going to be going to legal things, and they're going to try to sue each other, and that's why Zoe Blatt was involved. Okay, Zoe Blatt was I'm trying to think. She was legally involved in they found this bracelet. They found these bracelets, and you've read about this in I think was it the very last chapter we have of this one? Yeah. So you're getting a mystery. So a mystery is about to be explained in the next volume of this book. And these bracelets relate to
a puzzle.
They're a puzzle, and they are related to the prequel series. So you're going to have some tie-in, and it's fun because it's like, once you read Eos, you're going to say, oh my goodness, I know what they're talking about here. I know about these names and words and terms. So, talking about terms, you do have some new vocabulary in Amrevet Days, and you will learn, like, you learn the words for, besides body parts. I mean, you get the words for body parts. No, you have I'm trying to think, the Aurora. I think you have the term for Aurora. Nemastar, I think did I call it Nemastar or something like that? I don't even remember now. So there's a new word, and there's several more. We have the names of the foods in Deshi and then also in Hecate, which is the language of Eos Hecate. So you have food dish names, and you have terms, and you will have some phrases. I believe Aeson spoke some Hecate to during the last couple of chapters. So yeah, you get all kinds of juicy, fun little nuggets, and there will likely be a little bit less spice in book 2, because I think we've given you enough spice so that we can tone it down now a little bit and go more with the story. But we had to do this. This was just something people wanted. So now that they have the spice, and just to mention that this series is going to be called Amrevet Days. That's the name of the series. And the volumes are like, they're not really book one because they're just volumes, really. So Amrevet Days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's my plan, to go up to 5. And each one is a travelogue. It's a continuation. You really should read them in order just because you will know where they are, but it's not like a vitally terrible thing if you start with a middle book or whatever. So you just kind of, you're put in the middle of their adventure. And it's very much not a cliffhanger situation. I believe there was somebody asking on Facebook about if it being a cliffhanger and how they don't want to buy it if it's a cliffhanger. And I'm thinking, well,
Some of the things that some
yeah.
new words was uzu, which is the special protein,
right. And there's the
And
cat
it's-
food. Yeah.
the cat food. And
Yes,
for some reason, I keep thinking, Gwen is going to crave a salami sandwich, and they're going to have to figure out some way of,
Well, they will have substitutes. See, the thing about it is like all they have to do is they can make a substitute to taste like that, which is easy. Like we have that now.
pizza.
Right.
And
We have
she's
that now.
going to have cravings, and she's going to want,
Right. Well,
she's
the
gonna want
problem is Atlantean food is different. So that's why they don't have salamis, because they like that's
That's a
like
meat.
an Italian food that got, popular like much later. So Atlanteans have their own ancient foods, but they were all vegetarian, and you do get to learn a little bit more of how that came about, how the whole vegan vegetarian culture grew. So that's explained. It was
And
slightly
we learned some new body parts.
Yes, to have that. But so the culture will be explained in the prequel series. Yeah, there will be more terms, of course. As we're going along in Amrevet Days, there will be more terms, more languages, and different countries, because next volume is Ubasti. You get to go to Ubasti, and you get to see the Statue of Liberty in its new home. Remember that? Survive? I think George asked about it. George said, what happened to the Statue of Liberty? And it's like, oh, they took it, the democracy, symbol of democracy went to Ubasti because they're very democratic, and unlike the other cultures. So they're more democratic. And you will learn more about the different politics, the holidays. We have a holiday coming up. I think it's the yellow harvest
Yes.
is coming up. And that's going to be celebrated in volume 2 in the very opening in Ubasti. So they get to experience the holiday called Yellow Harvest. So see, you're getting a lot of good culture, not just spice, but on the other hand, you expect spice at any drop of a hat. You can have a lot of good.
Well, the only holidays that we know of, there was Flower Day, but Gwen slept through it because it was in the middle of the games.
Right. It's always in the middle of the games. And if you're not in the games, then you enjoy it. But if you are unfortunate enough to be in the games, then no, you're gonna not be enjoying. So yeah.
And we didn't do anything with
We had in Ace and Black, I believe, we had mention of the New Year's holiday, like the
Yes.
New Year's Day, but they didn't do anything for it. We just we said after it was over, then the story went on. So we will see more of the holidays as they come up, and you will get to experience it. And I think that's part of the reason for Amrevet Days, not just the spice, but also some of the cultures. It's just get that kind of relaxing, cozy travelogue which if I was going to write the book of everything, I don't have time to go into so much cozy stuff. I don't have time to go into like every detail of every holiday and watch them do this and this, that kind of like everyday life stuff. This is for Amrevet Days, and that's everyday life on Atlantis, the planet, and that's what you're getting here. Plus spice, because that's what So primary spice, and then everything else too.
Okay, and we know that it will be released on audiobook sometime. It's in the initial stages.
Yes, I'm signing a 3-book contract for this, so I'm going to be having pretty much as far as I know, guaranteed for Amrevet 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to happen, and when it happens, a few months. We don't know. We're going to be looking at narrators. And we're trying to get, I think we're gonna try to get Paul Woodson again, but with no promises. Because it just, who is available, who, so we'll see what we can do.
I have someone that's asking if you know how Amrevet Days is sold so far.
Well, it's doing okay, but it's not ever gonna sell as much as the original tag because it's a different audience. So I am venturing into an audience that's adjacent, it's tag adjacent. So I do not expect it to be big sales. It was never about sales. This was a book to give the fans the spice and to also give myself a place on Patreon to have this type of separate tier. So kind of an experiment, just actually on Patreon, and Reem were both like saying, I want to see if the subscription model works, and I think it works really well.
I have another person ask a question, which is not really relating to Amrevet Days, but
Sure.
will we find out what happens to Gwen's friends, siblings that were on Earth? Like, do they come to Atlantis, or do her friends go back to Earth? I would probably be safe in saying we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. And I can safely answer that some of them, yes, you will, obviously, because in the Book of Everything, it's the continuation of Gwen and Aeson. So you will find some things about the characters, obviously, because that's, the same group is still there. So you will find out about some of the people on Earth and a lot of the people on Atlantis, because that's where we are. And you may have some surprises, maybe not, but it's going to be a fun story, and I can already promise you there's going to be a big wedding. So there's another wedding, and that's going to be a part of the story in the Book of Everything. And whose wedding it is? Mum's the word. You don't know. You don't
Speculation.
know. Woo! Big spoilers. I am not telling you. But it's going to be fun. So you will enjoy the wedding. And you learned one thing here in Amrevet Days. You learned about who is the new commander of the SPC. The Star Pilot Corps has a new commander because Aeson cannot, it's a conflict of interest. He has integrity. He's not going to be a ruler of a country and the ruler of the fleet.
Well, he doesn't have time.
Pardon me?
Quite simply, he doesn't have time.
The time, yes, two things. Well, it's both. It's time and conflict of interest. So
Yeah.
he cannot be nobody who is like a ruler of a country, because that'll mean that they're going to be like basically taking over the international fleet. No. So he had to give it up, and we know now it's Oala. She is the new commander. And you get to see why, some of it will be more gone into in depth in the Book of Everything. That's where you get a lot more there. So yeah, you will get a lot of that. But for now,
Yeah, we know a few little tidbits. We met a few folks. And we'll meet more.
Well, you met in person, you've met Rumeyar Heru, who is he's like 5th in line for the throne.
The guy, and he's also the Ostradaimon who
he was
inspired
inspired.
Aeson.
Yeah, he inspired Aeson to become he was the Ostradaimon, the blue one who came in Aeson Blue. And he demonstrated, and then he made them, like, he didn't really, I don't think did I have him demonstrate? No, he made them work out, and the cadets had to do things. So they were watching. His group of Ostradaimon walked through, and they were watching. They were like recruiting for the fleet, basically. So that's what they did. And Aeson got so inspired, and so was Keruvat was inspired. Zelio was inspired. Oala was inspired. Everybody, Erita was inspired. They wanted to be Ostradaimon. It's like, yes. So everybody got a big kickstart from there. But yeah, you will meet more characters. You will have a good look at some of the people briefly mentioned in Survive. They will be more evident, more present, and you will learn a little bit more of their backstory. Just like you learned more about Farikon Heru, you learned about his status, what he's about, his family life, and You know, that was a new level to him that you did not know about and survive.
It's one of the things I really liked about him.
Yeah. So good, lots of good stuff. More to come. And
I think we have reached a spot where we can safely close and take a small break
yep.
and get ready for
Do
closing
we need a
ceremony.
break? Boy, do we need a break.
Well, we've only, don't have much to
Yeah.
go. You do not want to miss closing, which
Yes.
happens to be in about 15 minutes.
Yes, that has a lot of important announcements. Announcements, people. You have to be there. So do not miss it.
Okay.
Hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here, and please pass on to anybody who is not interested in this. They do not need to read these books. It is for the spicy reader. If you're not a spicy reader, you can just ignore it. So that's all. Easy just. So thank you so much.
Okay.
See you guys soon.
Are you gonna stop the recording? Terry?